Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Megan Trezza, and I'm the founder and CEO of La Jolla LearningWorks. If you are new to us, we are a learning center local in San Diego, and we are opening as a virtual elementary school coming on Monday. Just this next week is our first day of school. So we will be offering very small group classes for students to have a distance learning experience that is personalized and gives them engagement with peers and a positive learning experience. So just one more reminder, if you're joining us late, to please mute yourself and turn off videos. And I'll let you know, we're gonna be doing some Q&A at the end. So you can use the chat feature to ask questions. If you are unfamiliar with that, I'll just let you know, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you'll see a black bar that has a little icon that says chat, and all you have to do is click on that, open your chat box, and you can add any questions there. So feel free to add your questions throughout the presentation here, and we will get to all of those at the end. So let's see, I have somebody else here joining from our weight room. People are coming in and out here. There we go. Well, I'm going to introduce you guys. We're really thrilled to have Dr. Carl Hillier here with us this afternoon. I've known Carl for, gosh, over a decade now, I think. And we've been working together to support students who have learning challenges that also have visual processing challenges. And Dr. Hillier is quite the expert, and I've always loved, hearing from him. He's done some trainings for our staff. And we've always, worked to collaborate with students who we suspect may have some sort of issue with visual processing. So just to give you a little background on Dr. Hillier, he is a graduate of the University of San Diego with a bachelor's degree in psychology. And he has a bachelor's of science degree as well that he received from the Pacific University. And he graduated as a doctor of optometry in 1982. He received a fellowship to the College of Optometrists in Vision Development in 1986. He's an adjunct clinical professor at multiple universities, including the Southern California College of Optometry, Illinois College of Optometry, Western University School of Health Sciences College of Optometry, and the International College of Optometry in Madrid, Spain. And yes, I think he gets to travel to Spain too sometimes, which is pretty cool outside of this coronavirus era we're in right now. Another thing that I think is pretty cool is that Dr. Hillier also provides sports vision training with key players on the San Diego Padres baseball team. That's always been a good sell for young boys who need to get some vision therapy. So he's been honored by the American Optometric Association as Sports Optometrist of the Year, by the San Diego Optometric Society as Optometrist of the Year, and by the College of Optometrists in Vision Development by receiving the Getman Award, which is its highest award for clinical excellence. So I think bottom line here is that Dr. Hillier really knows his stuff when it comes to visual processing. And so when I thought, wow, kids this year are spending more time looking at screens than ever before, and we don't really have an alternative to it. That's when I knew we needed to bring in Dr. Hillier to share his tips for how to manage this and make sure that our kids are staying healthy through this time. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to you, Dr. Hillier.
Thank you very much, Megan. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share with your group and others about this critical relationship between the visual system and its ability to engage academic information via this the screen portal that we all have to do now. And it's so wonderful that your school is offering this opportunity for children to access that in a meaningful and dynamic and fun way. Because if it doesn't happen that way, kids are going to really tune out. But so it's a great service that you're offering the community, and I'm so glad that you're doing this. So basically, when we work with children primarily with learning challenges. But what we're discovering now is that children that are engaged in screen time have these new challenges that weren't really expected before. And we knew children used screen time a lot, but now they're obligated to use screen time in order to access and to develop learning skills. So it makes it much more difficult sometimes to biologically engage in a screen while attempting to learn at the same time. So we have issues with endurance and even the ability to attend to and to learn from that interface. But so the dynamic way that you do it at your center is wonderful. We just want to make sure that children can engage in a physiologically appropriate way without causing damage to the visual system, and to sustain good endurance for that whole activity, which might last several hours for most children. So my presentation today, and to share with everyone here, is that the visual skills necessary for learning, especially online, go far beyond the ability to see 20/20. And so being able to do that is really involving much more than eyesight in the distance, but rather close screen time. So what I'll be covering today for everybody is clarity at 20 feet has little to do with being efficient at 20 inches. There's a big conversation now, as you well know, that everyone's talking about is the effect of blue light and how that affects our ability to learn, to remember, to sleep. And does it cause damage to the eyes? Does it cause damage to the developing visual system? I'll be talking a lot about the warning signs of computer stress and how we can eliminate those symptoms and maximize learning. So that's what I'll be talking about over the next few minutes here. And I'll leave plenty of time, like Megan said, for questions toward the end. So please don't hesitate to write down questions that you might have for me. So visual access to screens involves four main things. So which has nothing to do with clarity other than close clarity, yes. Distance clarity, no. So 20/20 is not what we're looking at. We're looking at the ability to cause things to be clear close up, and that's what's called accommodation. So the ability to make things clear close up is number one. And when we look at a screen, it's a lot different than looking at reflected light. So some people liken looking at a screen as though you're staring at a low watt light bulb, which is really what it is. And that's really biologically unacceptable. It's certainly socially compulsive to do that, but the biological demands of looking at a light source for long periods of time are quite different than looking at reflected light, say, from a book. So we'll talk about that. Also binocularity, that is the ability for the eyes to point and turn and look exactly at where they need to look in order to gather information. As you know, a screen isn't three-dimensional. So when the binocular system has to look at a flat screen for long periods of time, many children have significant difficulty, and adults for that matter, of maintaining good eye alignment because there's no three-dimensional object to grasp or to grip. So the eyes tend to slide in and out when they look at a flat screen. And then finally, tracking. The ability to track and go from one place to another on a screen can be challenging, especially if it's repetitive left and right, left and right, left and right types of activity. So these four physiological needs are essential to determine if they're intact prior to engaging in an excessive screen time, or actually the required screen time necessary now to access academic information in a normal way. So beyond the physiological needs, we have perceptual needs. So we have visual perception, that is the ability to discriminate the differences between things on a screen, ovals different than circles, and the representation of three-dimensional objects in a two-dimensional screen are really important to be able to access, to visualize different perspective, looking at a screen instead of having the physical object be in front of you. So this is very important for visual processing. And then, so working memory is also a big part of this, the ability to hold on to information that you've just learned and utilize it in current incoming data, so you can match incoming information with information you've already learned. And then to be able to engage in visual thinking or visual cognition, to be able to engage a teacher online while they're talking about abstract situations, abstract concepts, can be very challenging to sustain visual endurance for that period of time. So these four things are also really important when it comes to the visual access to online learning. Now, what is digital eye strain? Now, this isn't only, of course, limited to children, but many, many adults have digital eye strain. And I've listed 6 different things here that are really the hallmarks of digital eye strain that typically don't happen as severely when you're looking at reflected light. So we're talking about looking at the light source, which again is biologically very, very demanding to do. So what you'll observe in your children are rubbing eyes and excessive blinking. So this will slowly ramp up over time. So in the first few minutes of screen time, maybe they don't have a problem with it. But over time, over the first or second, third, and sometimes fourth or fifth hour online, you're going to start seeing rubbing of the eyes and excessive blinking, squinting to improve near or distant clarity. Um, you'll have comments of headaches or eye redness and itchiness, blurred or double vision, especially in just one eye. Now, this is really important because sometimes when the binocular system is looking at a flat screen and it's a light source for long periods of time, the biology of the visual system can't sustain it very long. So what will often happen is that the binocular system or the visual system protects itself by shutting down one eye and just obligating the other eye to take responsibility for accessing that information. And so when that happens, one eye becomes more involved in the activity, more physiologically responsible, if you will, for that activity. And it focuses in tighter. Well, the fellow eye kind of relaxes and takes it easy. So what'll happen is after a certain period of time on a computer, an individual will look off into the distance and everything might look clear until you cover one eye and you realize that one eye is very blurry and the other eye is very clear. And this is because the eye that was blurry in the distance was the eye that was responsible for seeing clearly close up. So this can be very, it's kind of a hidden problem because when you look around, one eye takes responsibility for distance, the other eye takes responsibility for close. And the person doesn't realize that there's this asymmetry developing in the visual system. And ultimately that individual is going to lose binocularity and lose the ability to have both eyes work together as a team. This is very common. We've treated several children actually whose eyes started to cross because of this condition. It's called esotropia. And their eyes actually started to cross when they were doing excessive close work because their eyes were so committed to engaging in academic near-point work on a computer. So I'll talk about how to protect yourself from that later on. Myopia is a big factor now in terms of screen time. So more and more clinicians, more and more researchers are discovering that myopia is a very, very serious condition that is resulting from screen time. And you're going to be seeing more and more research, such as this one here, that talks about digital screen time during COVID pandemic, which is nurturing the development of myopia or nearsightedness, that is blurred distance vision. So one of the first things you should do after every break that you take from the computer is have your child cover one eye, look at some small things in the distance. And I can send you, if you email me, I can send you an eye chart that you can set, that you can put up on the wall. It's a 20/20 eye chart. And if you are suspecting, or actually what you should just do this anyway, put the chart up on the wall 20 feet away and cover one eye, make sure you can still read the distance letters, cover the other eye, you can still read the distance letters. Then you know that your visual system hasn't been compromised for distance clarity. So I can email that to you, or I can email it to Megan. You can access it through her group and have that available to you just to make sure that you're not losing vision by excessive screen time. So other symptoms of screen time, actually these are more cognitive in nature, and that is disrupted or shallow or short sleep periods. We know that sleep is responsible for consolidating memory. Sleep is extremely important for maintaining or not causing irritability the next day. A lack of sleep, which is highly correlated to excessive screen time, is highly correlated to ADHD. So children that have more screen time, especially within 2 hours before they go to sleep, typically have more symptoms of ADHD than the other population that doesn't spend that much on the screen and that doesn't have as much sleep or as deep a sleep. So sleep is probably one of the most serious consequences of excessive screen time that there are. And again, I'll talk about how to resolve that as well. But the irritability that your child might experience the next day is oftentimes due to a lack of sleep. But also, I mean, many of us, adults and children alike, we know it as adults when we have tension in our neck or shoulders or back, and we just want to stretch, which you should do regularly. But that can be turned into a chronic issue with neck and back pain. But certainly decreased cognitive efficiency and decreased cognitive endurance are really what we're talking about now when it comes to what some people are calling Zoom school or online learning, because of the lack of breaks in between screen time. Now, I'll talk a little bit about blue light because everyone's talking about blue light. Is there danger in it? Is it going to cause disease? What's happening with blue light? So let's just talk about what blue light is first. Blue light, there's a full range of spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. It goes from ultraviolet light, which is very harmful. It causes cataracts, it causes adult macular degeneration. And then there's this blue light in between, which is called high energy visible light. And you can see there where it says blue light, high energy visible light in parentheses. And that's the transition from non-visible light, which is very damaging to the eyes, and then to the visible light spectrum. So we're, of course, aware of our visual light spectrum, but that blue light, high energy visible light spectrum is the one that we're concerned about. That's from about what they call 380 nanometers to about 500 nanometers. And so, is this going to cause disease? Well, probably not, although there's lots of debate still on this, but the current research and most everyone is thinking that it's probably not, and that's the key word, probably not going to cause disease like cataracts and retinal or macular degeneration, because the natural filter of our cornea and the lens is protecting us from that type of light. But is it going to cause sleep disruption? Well, that's probably going to happen. If you don't turn off all of your electronic light sources by the time, well, certainly by the time bedtime rolls around, or the ideal is 2 hours before bedtime, you're not looking at a screen. So this means for children, there's no screens in their bedroom, okay? Because what are they going to do? They're going to look at their phone or their iPad or their computer, possibly before they go to sleep. And that means they're not going to go into deep sleep, and they're not going to be able to consolidate memory. So the whole purpose of online learning, or learning in general at all, is to develop the skill of learning, to be able to acquire new information and to consolidate that new information to long-term memory. So sleep disruption, by definition, causes difficulty with consolidating memory. So this is something that you have to be very, very, very careful about, is getting deep sleep is super important. And then visual discomfort, is there going to be visual discomfort? Most likely. Upwards of 80+% of everyone that spends a lot of time on the computer have visual symptoms. The symptoms I talk about: blinking, dry eye, redness of the eyes, rubbing of the eyes, difficulty with sustained attention. Okay, so what do we do about this? This is the key. So this is the best part of our discussion this afternoon, is because we can do things about these things. So for people that have difficulty with glare recovery, so in other words, people that are very sensitive to light, because when you're looking at a screen for a long period of time, the retina becomes oversaturated with light. And so you have to be very careful about that. And then the retina becomes very sensitive to light. It's like if you were to scrape your hand and you've got an abrasion on your hand, that skin on your hand becomes very sensitive to touch. It's the same kind of thing that's happening. And so to protect your retina from excessive light and to be able to recover from light, there's some nutrients that are really important to have. And these are called mesozeaxanthin, which is about 10 milligrams, lutein, which is about 10 milligrams, and zeaxanthin, about 2 milligrams. There's a combination of these nutrients in a group of vitamins called Macu Health. Okay, it's called Macu Health. And this is a nutrient combination that has these three nutrients in the proper ranges. And so I would consider taking Macu Health or these nutrients here to protect your retina from excessive light, especially if you have a history in your family of macular degeneration. So this will protect you from that. Also, use lubricating drops, the kind of drops that don't claim to get the red out, just the neutral lubricating drops that don't claim to get the red out, but rather just soothe your eyes are a good idea. You might want to put those in every hour or two just to soothe the eyes and to protect them from becoming dry. When we look at a computer screen, we're blinking a lot less frequently than we would normally blink. So we would normally blink maybe 12 times a minute, 12 to 15 times a minute. When you're looking at a screen, oftentimes people won't blink for maybe but 6 times a minute. And that's extremely infrequent. And that windshield wiper that creates a nice smooth tear film over your eye isn't providing that tear film anymore. And so that results in all kinds of visual discomfort. So that's important. The omega-3s, I'm sure most of you have heard about omega-3s. The DHA is designed to decrease inflammation in the body and the brain. And the EPA is designed to improve neurological function. The myelin sheath that surrounds the nerves in our brains and bodies are made up of EPA. And this, with the demands that we have now visually and cognitively in our environment, in our academic environment, are so high that we want to ensure that we have sufficient nutritional support to provide for normal learning and more normal thinking for the length of time that we have to, especially online. So these are very, very effective nutrients to decrease inflammation and to improve neurological function. And these are all very well researched and very, very well understood by the academic and scientific community. So to manage visual physiology or to manage digital eye strain, to make sure that doesn't happen to you, is to end screen time earlier in the evening. I've talked about that already, and I can't talk about it enough. I mean, that is the key. We have to allow for the melatonin in our brains and body to recapture itself. And when we're looking at light all the time, melatonin in the body and the brain is diminished. And that has to be recouped. It has to be reestablished in the brain so that so it'll help you go to sleep. So that's really important, is to stop looking at a light source 2 hours before screen time. The other thing you should do throughout the day, and I know that some children are on the screen, academic screen time, for up to 8 to 13 hours a day. When it comes to the screen time online for school, their homework, and then in addition to that, they're so socially isolated, they want to use the screen for social interaction. And I totally understand all that. But if you can, try to arrange conditions for the 20-20-20 rule to take place. So every 20 minutes, look away at least 20 feet for 20 seconds. Now, if you can look away outside onto a window, that's way better, because if you're looking outside, it's much better to see the three-dimensional space far away if you can. If you can, use natural lighting that surrounds your environment in the computer's area. So when you're my computer environment right now is very well lit. You can see the background is well lit. Some of it's incandescent, some of it is fluorescent. If you can arrange conditions for incandescent light to be available to you, most people find that much more comfortable. If you can arrange for natural light to come into that room that you're in, that's even better. But I would suggest that you do a lighting experiment at home to arrange conditions for the optimal lighting to occur for you or for your child's individual needs. So some people like warm white in their environment. Some people like cool white, or some people like the kitchen kind of light that makes your food look normal. Some people like fluorescent. Some people do like incandescent or LED or halogen. But it's worth doing the experiment. We're going to be inside so much, and we're going to be enveloped in light, in artificial light, so much of the time. It's worthwhile going to a lighting store, or at least going to Home Depot, and literally buying the blue light, the warm white, the soft white, the incandescent, the LED, the halogen, whatever it takes, and do the experiment at home. Buy a 100-watt light bulb, a 150-watt light bulb, or get the variable rheostat type of bulb, and discover for yourself. And every individual in your family might be a little bit different. But if you each have your own learning environment, you can titrate it and organize it to the lighting that's best for your own biology and your own visual comfort. But by and large, you want the room to be well lit. You don't want that screen to be the only thing that's lit up in your room, because you want to be able to look at your screen, then you want to be able to look away and look at reflected light. So this 20-20-20 rule is you're looking away, you're looking at reflected light, you're looking away from the screen, you're looking outside of a window every 20 minutes, and you must set a timer because you will not remember to do this. I mean, I don't know of anyone that just automatically remembers, oh, it's 20 minutes. So we've been online now for 20 minutes. So we should all take a break, look away for 20 seconds. Literally, 20 seconds is a long time. So if you count 20 seconds, 1, 2, 3, keep looking away, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm giving you good practice. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now that seems like a really long time, and you're probably wondering, hey, just get back to the discussion. And that might be true too, but looking away for 20 seconds is biologically resetting your mental capacity to not only visually engage the screen, but also to be cognitively kind of clear-headed and to consolidate all that you've learned for that previous 20 minutes. It's not lost time. It's not wasted time at all. You're giving your eyes a visual break physiologically. You're giving your mind an opportunity to reflect on and consolidate all that you've learned and to prepare for the next 20-minute session. So I would recommend that if you can at all do that. But the lighting around you is really important. So do head rotations. So during that 20-20 rule, or the 20-second rule, you can also do head rotations. I'll demonstrate what head rotations look like. So I'm looking straight ahead at the camera so you can see me, but typically what I would do is look away at something that's in the room, and I would do a head rotation. So this is called head rotations right here. So this is helping your neck relax. You're going to breathe comfortably. I recommend you breathe into your nose and out through your mouth. Because when we're on a computer, we are breathing less. We're breathing more shallow. We're not breathing as much oxygen into our brain, which is the nutrient necessary for thinking. So you're going to go 6 times clockwise, and then you're going to go 6 times counterclockwise. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can stretch your shoulders and your arms while doing this. And this is really rejuvenating, and it resets your brain and your body for learning. You can also do near-far jumps. So I'm going to be looking off into the distance at an object that I know should be clear. I'm going to make it clear, and then I'm going to look close up and look at some notes close up. So I'll go far for about 5 seconds, then near for about 5 seconds. Far, and then near, back and forth about 10 times. And that's going to keep that muscle inside of our eyes. It's controlled by one of the 12 cranial nerves. It's called the third nerve. There's something called the ciliary muscle inside of our eyes that flexes and relaxes, flexes and relaxes. And when that muscle is chronically tight, this is what causes myopia or nearsightedness. So we don't want that to happen. We want to flex that muscle. So the muscle in our neck, we're flexing with the head rotations. The muscle inside of the eye literally is being flexed and relaxed by looking far and near. And then finally do 4 corner fixations. So I'm sitting in front of my computer screen, but I'm going to look beyond it. I'm going to look to this corner of the room. There's a corner over here, a corner over here, a corner down here, a corner down here. So I'll look up at this corner, that corner, this corner, this corner. And I'll do that about 5 times. And my eyes are moving. I'm using my peripheral vision. And the 6 muscles that surround each eye are now finally given an opportunity to also relax and to rejuvenate themselves for the next 20-minute session of learning. So 20-20 rule, head rotations, near-far focusing, and the 4 corner fixations are going to be really, really helpful to everybody to really enrich their learning, to make learning more enjoyable and less stressful and a lot more fun, I hope. So again, I guess I got ahead of myself here. The ambient light in the room is what I just talked about. The viewing distance to the screen is also really important. So let's talk about that. So I'm about 20 inches away. So people shouldn't be any closer than arm's reach to the screen. My arm's about 26 inches, but no closer than 20. Children are going to be about 20 inches away. Now, what happens with children a lot of the time is they tend to get close, especially with their cell phones. You see a lot of adults getting really close with their cell phone. Now, if I'm 20 inches away from my screen and I end up getting 10 inches from my screen, that's 4 times the increased radiant light entering my system. It's not double. So if I'm at 20 inches, let's just say we're at a certain level of radiant light coming in. But if I move up to 10 inches, it's 4 times that. So it's really important to ensure that you maintain good distance. So just make sure that you can just barely touch the screen. You shouldn't be any closer than being able to touch your screen. Your keyboard's closer, so that should be fine, but your screen should be further away. Consider getting an auxiliary screen. I'll talk about that some more. Get blue light blocking glasses. So you can do that with a screen, you can do that with glasses. You can do that with a night shift program. So on my Mac, and many of us have Macintosh, you can change it unless you're up in Seattle and you're using PCs. And but you can, I don't know what the PC has, and I don't know for sure what they have in terms of night block lenses or screens, but almost every single computer company, almost every software program has a night shift program so that you can change the light from being kind of a bluish light to more of an amber kind of light, which simulates the normal diurnal rhythm of day and night cycles, which will help you sleep better. But performance lenses are also really important. So what I mean by performance lenses are lenses that they have a unique feature. What they do is they diffuse the light, they virtually push the image further away from you, so that's what my glasses are right now. When I'm looking at the screen right now, it's 20 inches away. When I put my glasses on, it moves it virtually back to about 40 inches away. So you get prescription lenses that literally move the virtual image further away. It diffuses the light and it makes it bigger at the same time. So it's like, instead of looking at a screen close up, it's like you're watching a movie or a TV screen far away. But you don't have to have it far away physically. The glasses do it for you. They literally make things bigger. They move it further away like it's a projection, and it diffuses the light. You can also incorporate blue light absorbent lenses material in here. And so it does everything for you to protect you from that light. So even if you do get closer on a night shift program where the computer screen changes its color for you, that's great. But if you start to inch your way closer, that ambient light gets 4 times as heavy. But if you have the glasses on, it doesn't matter so much if you get closer or not, because these lenses are going to absorb the light or deflect the light, and it'll never get to your visual system. There's different models. I'm wearing one. This is called Blue Tech. I don't know if you can see that. These are different kinds, and I don't know if you can see my shirt through the lens compared to not through the lens, but you can see it's slightly dimmed a little bit, which is really helpful to make the screen more comfortable. But the idea is diffusing the light, pushing the image further away with special performance lenses, diffusing the light, making a tint there and making it bigger and further away. So that's what these performance lenses do. Everyone has a little bit different power that best benefits them, depending on the nature of their focusing system. So you can go to your optometrist, ask them about these performance lenses, and they can talk to you about it and prescribe the one that's ideal for you. So there's more resources here that are available to you. There's a Screenagers movie that I think is worthwhile watching. It talks about the socially compulsive nature of looking at screens and what to do about that and how to manage that. Dr. Delaney Rustin has a great podcast on sleep, and she also talks about how important it is to manage sleep so that you don't have those ADHD symptoms the next day or chronically. And so you learn how to consolidate memory more, and you're not as irritated, and you're ready to go for the next day. super important. Now, the College of Optometrists and Vision Development and the American Optometric Association and our website at the San Diego Center for Vision Care also provides lots of really good information about this interface that we're now really obligated to do. And who knows how long it'll last. I think it's going to be maybe the norm for a lot of people for a long, long time. So getting this down, having your learning workstation at home be maximized is going to be essential for your child's academic progress and academic growth. So I'm going to open this up for questions and comments or concerns that anyone might have. So Megan, please open it up to questions and concerns that people might have.
Great, thank you. So everyone, you can add your questions in the chat box and I will offer those up to Dr. Hillier. I had a couple questions for clarification. I love all these exercises. I love that they're so simple and it's just a matter of remembering to do them. We will be incorporating that as part of our school day of having the teachers, monitor the time, give the kids breaks, and make sure that they're doing these simple breathing exercises and movements and that sort of thing. But I was curious, just a couple things to clarify. For the supplements that you recommended, are those also safe for children? And is there any kind of particular manufacturer of that is designed for kids?
They are safe for children and they're recommended for the children, especially children that are athletes. It's been proven by these nutrients that their reaction time improves and their glare recovery improves. So they're fine for kids. The amounts that I gave you for the DHA and the EPA for the omega-3s are also safe for children. So they're all really important, especially when we're exposed to so much artificial light. The one formulation that is good for, excuse me, one moment, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a company that put together that very specific nutrient balance for eye health.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in our email following this. So MACU Health.
MACU Health.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And it's kind of a nice little pamphlet, actually. It talks about, all what happens to blue light when it enters the eye and how it affects glare. So MACU Health is a really good, I think, nutrient. That's the one that we recommend in our office.
Okay, great. And then I have somebody ask the question that was on my list here too. Can you get a performance lens like you were describing without a prescription, or do you need a prescription to get that?
Well, ideally you need a prescription, because now some people will get some blue light blockers online and everything, and that's okay. It does cover the blue light part of it, but it doesn't move the screen back and it doesn't make it bigger. So the idea is to back up a little bit. It's biologically unacceptable to look at close things for long periods of time. It's just not what our visual system is designed to do. I mean, we have two eyes in order to look at dynamic three-dimensional space. And then when we're constrained to look at a flat two-dimensional surface that's lit up, our binocular system has a hard time with that. So unless it's really engaging, and all the software companies that make all these games, they arrange conditions for kids to overcome that biological difficulty because they're so engaged in the game. But when it comes to online learning, if it's engaging enough, that's great. But it still is too close and it's too flat and it's too lit up. So that, to answer your question, it's very important to get the right power lens that's designed for your own biology and your own visual system to move it away just the right amount. So some children are more farsighted than others. It's ideal to be hyperopic or to have farsightedness, but everyone has a little different degree of that. Some kids have a little bit of astigmatism, some kids are a little bit nearsighted. And so depending on the nature of the optics of their eyes, you want to make sure that they have the optimal visual balance in the eyes to move things back equally with each eye at the right distance at the right amount. So the ideal is prescription glasses. If you just get them online, you are blocking the blue light, which is great, but it's not providing that opportunity for the screen to be bigger and further away and to protect them at all distances.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that too, just what the difference in effectiveness would be with the blue light blockers. So just to go a step further, if somebody felt hindered from going the length of getting the performance lenses and just say like me would just wear like the blue light blockers that you can get online, is it then sufficient to, be using the blue light blockers and having that distance from your screen that you were recommending, if you're also doing those visual exercises to, look away and you make sure that you're not staring at the screen for extended hours at length?
Yeah, there's layers of benefit. So the first layer of benefit is staying away from your screen and using the night shift aspect to your screen program. The second layer would be to always have the blue blocker lenses, whether they're performance lenses or not. That's going to be helpful. And then the third layer would be using those exercises that I gave you, the 20-20-20 rule, the four corner fixations, the near far fixations, the head rotations. Those are all really good. And then using those nutrients are also more neuroprotective. And then consider also getting a supplemental screen. So for example, right now I'm looking at my laptop, but I also have a 24-inch diagonal screen behind my laptop right now that's bigger and further away, so that it's even further away and it's bigger and I can control that lighting. So if I'm constrained to a laptop, that's where my visual system has to be. But if I can get a bigger screen and further away, it's way more beneficial to the physiology of my visual system, because then I can move around. Like right now, I'm looking above my laptop, above the camera at this nice big screen. It's a high density screen, so the pixels are very dense. It's really nice to look at. It's a Samsung 24-inch screen. It's got it's like 2,500 pixels in one direction and 1440 in another direction. It's really light. So then the final layer, which is just I guess the one of the best things about it is that if I do have the performance lenses on, regardless of where I'm looking, if I'm looking here or there or at the screen, I know that I'm enhancing my visual performance optimally. So there's all these different layers of performance that you can look for. Yeah.
Awesome. And I guess one other thing I was thinking of was just if you have students, and I know so many of them are working from laptops, Chromebooks, that sort of a thing. Just thinking of getting further away from it, I have a separate detachable keyboard and mouse, just so that, there's a little more space away from the screen. I know
Right.
it's challenging for families who have multiple kids at home and trying to find all the spaces for them to work and all of that. So that
That's
might
right.
be, an easy, keyboard add-on or something like that.
Yeah.
More questions coming through on some of the specifics here. As far as the doses for the vitamins that you recommend for the DHA and the EPA, were you referring to, is that a daily dose? Is that just once a day or divided doses, or does it matter?
That's a daily dose. Now, if you look at these different companies, like Nordic Naturals, for example, has a really nice way of purifying their nutrients, and I think they're a really good source for the EPA and the DHA. But you'll get all variety of doses. So you can feel comfortable, I think, with around a total of 15 to 1,700 milligrams, about fairly equally balanced. If you have more of a dry eye issue, then you might want to increase the DHA a little bit. If you have more of an attentional issue, you might want to increase the EPA a little bit. But I would recommend somewhere in that range of 1,500 to 1,700 milligrams of combined DHA.
Okay, great. And then someone who has asked, I know this is a question I threw your way over a few months back, but just thinking about I know for the blue light blocking glasses and for like a blue light setting on the computer, and I guess address it for each separately, but are you supposed to use those all the time or just for more evening hours?
I'd recommend it all the time, because you don't need that extra light. We're under artificial light so much already all the time that I use it all the time. Yeah. And I use the blue blocker glasses all the time. Yeah.
And now I do too, after getting your advice on that.
Yeah. And the idea too, if you can at least spend an hour a day outside, that the research is showing that if you can spend at least an hour outdoors every day, somehow when you're taking a break from your computer time, go outside. That's going to help you prevent myopia as well. So just go outside and just either do nothing or run around, or just go outside and look around. That seems to be one of the best things to prevent myopia, and is one of the most simplest things to do too. So
Outside and don't bring your phone.
don't bring your phone. Just put your phone away. That's right. I mean,
That.
put it away. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Someone asked that they have glasses that they received from you for vision therapy to relieve eye strain for close-up work. Would that be the same thing as performance lenses, or are the performance lenses something else?
No, it's the same thing. So we prescribe these performance lenses for all of our patients, and well, not all of our patients. Those that benefit from it will provide the performance lenses. If you have a certain situation, sometimes we'll have to prescribe a different kind of power for different situations. Sometimes computer power might be different than a reading power that might be different than a distance power. So it depends on your unique situation. But the majority of our patients are recommended blue blocker performance lenses for all of their screen time. There's rare occasions when it doesn't happen if you're nearsighted. And if you're nearsighted and you're already focused on a 20-inch screen, then you don't put extra lens power in there. You take off your distance glasses, you put on the blue blocker glasses that don't have any power in them because your eyes are already set up for that distance. So if you're nearsighted, that's one of the exceptions.
Okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense. I want to book an
Yeah.
appointment with you to get some performance lenses.
What's that?
I said, now I want to book an appointment with you to get some performance lenses. I thought it was okay
Well,
with just my blue blockers,
it,
but this is a whole new
it's, it,
thing you're throwing at me.
it does help. I mean, because it's a fascinating lens power because it makes things bigger but further away. So they magnify and you think that things are closer, but in reality, the light's coming from a point further away, which is really fascinating how they work. Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference in just the way that you feel, at the end of a work day with those versus not having them? Or I don't know, maybe
Oh,
it's
yeah.
too far off to
90,
compare.
that's right. 90% of the people that get the blue blocker performance lenses find significant relief of eye strain. And that research is showing that. So that's really wonderful. And well, actually, no, it's about 70% show reduced eye strain, about 90% show improved sleep. So that's a huge benefit just right there. Yeah.
And I was curious too, as far as sleep. I mean, I have issues with sleep, and if I'm working late at night, I wake up and I just can't, get a sustained deep sleep through the night. But I don't often hear that as an issue for kids. Is it something that there are signs that you just won't notice for kids that the sleep's being disturbed, or
Well,
is it more
yes,
subtle where they're not
but
awake, but they're not hitting like the deeper, sleep cycle, or what?
that's right. They need to get into the deep sleep. So without the deep sleep, they don't consolidate memory. So they might be sleeping a certain period of time, but it's shallow and it doesn't go deep. So they need to have 3 or 4 really deep cycles of sleep to make sure that they are getting the restorative nature of sleep. There's chemicals in our brain that need to be metabolized, and they're not metabolized very well unless they go into a deep sleep. And so that's the essential part. It's not the length of the sleep, but it's the quality.
Mhm.
So they need to be able to go to sleep quickly and deeply. And there should be about 3 or 4 cycles of that. And if you were to watch your child go into deep sleep, you'll see you'll see their eyes flutter, kind of a nystagmus. The eyes quickly move, and that means they're going into a deep sleep, and they should stay down past that level of sleep, even for 15 to 20 minutes at least. But it should, that should cycle through for a couple of hours. They should go through that cycle 2 or 3 times a night for at least a half an hour to an hour. And then they go through cycles of sleep, which is restorative to the brain. It's literally the brain's ability to recapture its ability to think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess my point being, you might not know that your child isn't getting great sleep other than maybe observing more irritability during the day, or if don't, feel like their performance in school is lacking, or maybe we just blanket assume that if we're not taking precautions with screen time, then children are most likely having these problems.
Right. So it's really the behavior the next day that's going to help you know if they're irritable, if they seem not to pay attention, if they're certainly falling asleep during the day.
I think you froze for me, Dr. Hillier. I don't know. we can reconnect you. Can you hear me? Well, shoot, here we are on Zoom with some technical difficulties. I guess nothing that we are all new to here. I hope Dr. Hillier can join us again here. If we can maybe restart internet. Let's see. Looks like maybe he's trying to rejoin us. So anyhow, this has been really fascinating, very informative for me. And I hope for all of you guys. I know there's been a lot of participation, a lot of comments here. And so I'm sure everyone's learning something. We will be emailing out sometime tomorrow with a recording from Dr. Hillier's talk. And then let me get, he's coming back in here. Here we go. So anyhow, we'll be sending that out, and I'll put together all the resources that Dr. Hillier had shared with us. So let's see if I can find it. Yeah. There we go. Oh, goodness.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happens. It must have been on my end, so.
No worries, no worries. So we were just kind of wrapping up, but it sounds like, you know, like you were saying, you know, you're going to see signs of children having difficulty with sleep more the next day.
Right. But just make sure that your children are visually prepared to learn is the bottom line. A school screening or a screening at the pediatricians is really insufficient because they're checking for distance clarity. You need to find out if your child can track, converge, focus, and deal with near point visual work for long periods of time. And 20/20 in the distance isn't it. I mean, it used to be thought that if you had 20/20 eyesight and healthy eyes, you were prepared for learning. But what we know today is that the visual skills necessary for learning go far beyond that, and especially now with the demands of computer learning.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great point. Let's see, I have one more question. How do we get our email address to you so we can get the recording of this presentation? So I will let you know here. I'm gonna message you my email address. If you registered for this, chances are I already have your email address. Because you used an email address to sign up for this talk. So I should have your email address, but if you have any more specific questions or you want to get in touch, like I said, you know, you want to make sure I have your email address, you can always email me. My email address is Megan, M-E-G-A-N. So I'll put it in the chat here, at LJ for La Jolla LearningWorks.com. And so if you email me, I will make sure that you get a copy of this presentation in our email. And I was going to be saying, we'll share out the resources that Dr. Hillier mentioned. So Dr. Hillier, if you want to send me that vision chart you talked about as a PDF that people can print and you know, put that up in their, you know, home classrooms now. Right. I'll share out a link for the MacuHealth vitamins. I think there's a few other things. We'll just recap on all of those 20/20/20 rules and exercises. And sure everybody has, you know, the tools they need to keep their kids happy and healthy and really engaged in learning through this, you know, kind of crazy school year we have here.
Yeah, well, thanks for being available to everybody at home online. And what you're offering is just fantastic. You have so many different ways of providing a meaningful learning experience. It's just great to see that happen. Thanks for taking all the time and energy and making that happen.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, thank you for taking the time and putting together such a beautiful presentation for us today. It was fun to see all my San Diego favorite spots and all those beautiful pictures. So it's really, really great tips. I really appreciate it. We're getting some thank yous in the comments here. Everybody's really loved it. So thank you for your help. And for anyone at home, if you are struggling with distance learning, you know, in the setup you have right now with your child's school, or if you're homeschooling, whatever it is, if you're feeling a little in over your head, reach out to us. Like I said, we have our virtual elementary school with small classes starting up on Monday. We have a few spots available now, grades 1 through 5. And we are going to be implementing these tips and making sure kids have healthy break time, you know, getting away from the screen at, you know, good intervals, and doing breathing exercises and movement while they're with us on the screen. So, you know, reach out if you have any questions and want to learn more. But anyhow, I wish everyone a really wonderful evening and good, healthy learning through this screen time year. Thank you again, Dr. Hillier.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.